Hello, and welcome to the second Noteworthy Brew Book Talk. Cheers. So today we're going to be talking about a graphic novel, which is kind of, for me, uncharted territory, or at least it was before this graphic novel. So this is one of my first ones that I've ever ventured into. And this novel is a graphic adaptation of Anne Frank's diary. Um, and so you've probably read The Diary of a Young Girl, written by Anne Frank. The infamous, beautiful soul of a young woman who was in hiding during the beginning of World War II, and then who later was placed in a concentration camp and executed later. So it's a really hard story, but it was also a story that really drew me in to love literature. I remember being in the seventh grade and just having a whole unit on Anne Frank and falling in love with her writing and her ability to share her world with others and really offer that window into having hope in the midst of suffering. And so this graphic adaptation, it's adapted by Ari Folman and it's illustrated by David Polanski. And I think one of my favorite parts about the graphic adaptation is all of David's work and all of his illustrations. They are incredible, and they really offer you an insight into the diary that I feel like is neglected within the original, and not because Anne Frank didn't capture her own life to the best, but just because illustrations are really powerful, and I think art combined with writing, especially, is just really piercing. So here it is. It's beautiful. And so some of the elements of theme that I noted down that I think are really important are obviously the illustrations, being a graphic novel, and then isolation and suspense, family and comparison, coming of age, her young romance, and then the critical effects of fear. And I made the claim that I feel like Anne Frank is probably the most well-known person from the Nazi era, besides Hitler himself. So, and then if you remember correctly, she refers to her diary as Dearest Kitty. So some of the main characters, obviously Anne herself, her sister Margot, her love Peter von Pels, or she refers to him as Peter von Dahn in her book, and then her parents Otto and Edith. So just what I wanted to read for you, a short excerpt / bit from one of my favorite quotes of Anne, and then also a little bit from the adapter's note from Ari. So one of my favorite quotes, and I'll just kind of do my best to show you the pages here. As you see, it has a lot of writing, and so they intended to keep most of all of her original writing. And so it's not really like a comic book, but yeah, it's just a graphic novel. So it has everything you need in there and more. So Anne says, I've often been down in the dumps, but never desperate. I look upon our life in hiding as an interesting adventure, full of danger and romance, and every privation as an amusing addition to my diary. I've made up my mind to lead a different life from other girls, and not to become an ordinary housewife later on. What I'm experiencing here is a good beginning to an interesting life, and that's the only reason, why I have to laugh at the humorous side of the most dangerous moments. So good. So good. And then in the adapter's note from Ari, he says, we made no attempt to guess in what manner Anne might have drawn her diary if she had been an artist instead of a writer. We did, however, try to visually interpret and preserve her powerful sense of humor, her sarcasm, which is very strong, and her obsessive preoccupation with food. So with being in hiding, that's something I didn't realize, all that she had to cope with, the endless hunger, and while being in hiding in the annex in her father's office, if you recall. So he also says, for Anne's periods of depression and despair, we chose to depict them as either fantastical scenes such as Jews rebuilding the pyramids under the Nazi whip, or as dreams. So they really executed that well here, and they kind of have a little bit here from her kind of just looking at her options of what she has to eat. And I really enjoyed how they were able to express Anne's emotions surrounding everything going on, and it really did depict that so well. And because this is a graphic adaptation, I feel like it was really possible to see the difference between Anne herself and then Kitty the diary, and how even though it's her writing and it's in the form of, writing a diary entry, that she really was her own person and that her life was real, and her story is just so profound. So um, I highly, highly recommend the graphic adaptation of this, of Anne Frank, her diary, and I hope that you're able to read it and that you enjoy it as much as I have. And all in all, just if you're like me after reading this, just being more open to graphic novels in general, in YA Lit. So that's that. All right. See ya.